Welcome to the February 18th edition of the Beatdown Report. My name is The Clute. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you had a great Valentine's Day. Hope you got to spend some time with your honey if you had a honey. Hope you got to, I hope you had good Valentine's Day sex. Because in truth, isn't that what Valentine's Day is about? It's a guaranteed day where if you're in a relationship, you're probably going to get banged. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's nice to have days of the year that are scheduled specifically. So even if you only have sex one time a year, even if you're in a loveless sham of a relationship, you will probably put all that aside just to get some strange on Valentine's Day. But we're in the new Beatdown Express format. I keep calling it that, and I know my producer is probably tired of me using that name, but I like the 30-minute format of the show. It requires me to kind of condense my thoughts rather than go on these stream of consciousness rants, which basically wind up me shouting at the microphone, flecking it with spittle. But this is going to be a celebratory show. This is one of those shows where I think it's a universal happy thing for everyone who loves one of my great loves, which is sharks. Are sharks. I think sharks are neat. Ever since I was a little kid. When I grew up in a town called Palm Beach, Florida. And during the summer, my parents had a membership to a beach club called the Breakers Beach Club. It was right on the coast of Palm Beach, Florida, and had a swimming pool, a saltwater swimming pool, which I went into because, you know, sometimes you just want to float or you just want to play and you don't have to worry about doing the stingray shuffle when you walk into the water so you don't get your ankles embedded with a stingray barb, and you don't have to worry about getting stung by a jellyfish or a man-o-war. But ever since I was a little kid, I was fascinated with sharks. And what led to my fascination was really this one moment where the beach club, the swimming area was defined by this long stretch of buoys. You had to stay within the buoys. But these buoys really were like way too far for lifeguards to effectively save you. I couldn't give you the distance. It was, for a little kid, it could have been a mile. You know, for an adult, it's maybe like, 300 yards, 500 yards out into the sea. But when you were a kid, it was this thing where all the kids would, go into the ocean, and then you would dare someone to swim out to the end of the buoy line, to the farthest point where you were allowed to swim by the lifeguards of the Breakers Beach Club. And this was in pretty deep water. Again, for a kid. For an adult, I'd say most people don't go swimming in, just from the beach to 20 feet of water. But for a little kid, 20 feet of water is like a mile down. So I got dared to swim out to the buoy line, and I did. And I get there, and I'm, proud of my accomplishment. I'm treading water. And then I look down, and there's a sawfish. And a sawfish is, if you don't know, it's in the shark family. It's an elasmobranch, and it's big, and it's flat. And it's got this big old saw in the front that's embedded with teeth. And how the sawfish hunts is that he finds a school of baitfish. And then he just starts swinging his head left and right. And the saw carves through the school of fish and chops them up, and then he eats all the pieces that float to the bottom. And I saw this sawfish, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm in trouble. Because I'm a kid, and there's this, in essence, ancient monster just swimming beneath me. And I was terrified. And I swam back to shore faster than I ever have before. But when I got to shore, I regretted it then, and I regretted it to this day. Because sawfish are docile. As long as you don't have a hook in them, and as long as you don't have them in a net. They're not going to mess with a human being. And I wish to this day that I'd stayed out there and I'd observed him more. I had my mask on because I always hated getting salt water in my eyes. And I could have just followed him. I could have just looked at him, and I didn't. And I may never get that chance again, because sawfish in this day and age are endangered. Some would say critically endangered. Most sharks have a very slow reproduction rate. They achieve sexual maturity late. They don't produce a lot of offspring. And sawfish are critical. No, they require the certain habitats to reproduce and to live. And these habitats are being destroyed by the increasing urbanization of the Florida coastline, of habitat loss because of that, because of increased fishing, and because of just, people who think it's funny to land these fish. There was a gentleman a couple months back who hooked a sawfish, which are protected by Florida state law. They're not allowed to land them. If you hook one of them, you have to kind of immediately get that hook out of them and release them back into the water to cause as little stress on them as possible. And this asshole redneck fisherman, a kid, he's like 19, 20, and he hooked the sawfish and he brought it on shore and he took a picture with it and he says he released it and it was fine, but you don't know. Just one of the things, and I'm a fisherman. I go drift boat fishing when I go home to South Florida, which I'm finding hard to reconcile, because I know that, for instance, Dr. Sylvia Earle, who is a shark biologist, and she's mentioned that when you're fishing, you're basically killing wildlife. A lot of people have this impression of fish as just kind of like this natural resource, kind of like cows or chickens or pigs, and it's not. We don't go out and ranchers don't go out and kill wild cows. They're not hunting for wild pigs in the swamps of Georgia to bring bacon to your table. But when you're a fisherman, especially as a drift boat fisherman, you're fishing on reefs. And as much as you can be cautious and as much as you can try to preserve the natural environment, when you're fishing, you're going to do damage to the natural environment if you catch something, or if you don't catch something. You'll foul hook the reef and you'll pull up a sea fan, or you'll catch a fish who you can't eat, and by the very nature of hooking them is going to kill them. Moray eels, for instance. Moray eels, when they're hooked, they have a tendency to start wrapping themselves around the fishing line to the point where you bring them up on the boat and they've twisted and contorted themselves to the point where you can't release them. They're already torn apart by the fishing line. But catch and release is not all. It's an inexact science. You will, on occasion, release a dead animal or release a dying animal, and just because you see it swim away doesn't mean that 10 minutes later it's not going to wind up at the bottom being torn apart by crabs. So this kid, caught a sawfish and released it, and we hope, because there's so few sawfish left, that it's okay. But these are the moments that defined me in the sense of how I came to love the ocean and sharks specifically. Seeing nurse sharks in the Florida Keys, and watching a black tip through the flashlight as I was doing a night dive one time. And we have gone, actually, I think, as a society, though, we're beginning to change how we look at sharks and how we look at the marine environment. And I think that's really super important. And there's subtle ways that we're doing it. So there's a guy in Miami. His name is a fisherman he goes by the name of Mark the Shark. And he has a website, marktheshark.com, and he has all these promotional, videos and links and everything like that. And he has part of his bio, and he thinks it's I hate to stand in judgment of people, but I'm going to. Part of his bio links show him standing in front of world record sailfish catch, and he's standing in front of what appear to be like 25 sailfish. And remember, people don't generally eat sailfish. Sailfish are basically a trophy fish, a game fish. So he shows him just standing in front of 25 dead sailfish as if this is something to be proud of. And then he lists these quotes. One is from Life magazine from August 1991. Mark the Shark is simply the most notorious bounty hunter since Captain Ahab from the novel Moby Dick. If you read Moby Dick, you don't want to be Captain Ahab. Captain Ahab is a vile person who sees all the bad that has happened to him in the white whale, and he sacrifices everyone and everything to achieve his revenge, which winds up killing him in the end. And Moby Dick presumably survives, having finished off the Pequod and Captain Ahab. Another quote from a book called Demon Fish. If you're looking for a 21st century incarnation of Captain Quint, the obsessive shark hunter from Jaws, Mark the Shark comes pretty close. And Quint, again, a lot of people think Quint is the cool character. For me, Hooper was always the cool character in Jaws. But remember, Quint dies because of his crazy obsession. If Quint hadn't smashed the radio, if Quint hadn't driven the orca with seawater running through the engine, Quint would still be alive. These are the people that Mark the Shark wants to be like. There's a quote from the Miami Herald. Mark the Shark's a killing machine. These are not good things. This is not a person you want to emulate. And we have, over the years, changed our impression of sharks. Mark the Shark, the killing machine, is an anachronism. He's a holdover, hopefully kind of one of the last holdovers from a time where we saw sharks as an enemy and not as a necessary component to the marine ecology. The apex predators that they are, they kind of maintain, they're kind of the taskmasters of the sea. They keep everyone on an even keel, so to speak. Populations boom, sharks are there to knock them down. And other apex predators, obviously. Marlin, tuna, orcas, dolphins. But sharks are the sexy ones. And I think a lot of the demystification of sharks and the kind of the celebration of sharks has come from nature programming, which in this day and age is best exemplified by Shark Week. Now, Shark Week is a very, very mixed bag. Definitely has become so. Over the last couple of years, we've had to sit through documentaries like Megalodon, The Monster Shark Lives. Let's bring up a quote from Megalodon, The Monster Shark Lives.
Look, we all know that Megalodon doesn't exist today.
All right, so that's good. That is probably the only factual statement that they make about Megalodon in Megalodon, The Monster Shark Lives. The rest of it was an implication that Megalodon, a species of shark that presumably died out between 1 million and I've heard numbers like 50,000 years ago. I'm not sure how accurate that is. My numbers are. You should probably look that up. By listening to a reputable scientist and not a podcast host. But for the totality of modern human existence, from the time that we crawled down out of the trees to our grand designs of civilization in the modern age, Megalodon has not been part of that. You can swim in the seas, and you can see some big animals. The docile whale shark, the docile basking shark, our cetacean friends, the humpbacks, the blue whales. They're all big. Blue whale is bigger than Megalodon could ever hope to be. But Megalodon's not part of that pantheon of cool giant ocean animals, as much as people believe it. And there's a man we're going to talk about in a minute in kind of relation to everything that's going on right now with shark ecology. But first, an ad. So we, here at the Beatdown Report, want to promote our new channel on YouTube. Just search for the Beatdown Report. And you can catch all of our archive shows, including this one, which you're listening to right now. But there's other shows that we've done, including some shows that we brought over from our Podbean account before we moved to YouTube to monetize our content because we are desperate for cash. But we also want you to check out our parent which we split off from, Brick Cave Media. You can search on Brick Cave Media on YouTube, and you'll find the Brick Cave Media channel where you'll catch all kinds of cool shows, including Brick Cave Media Universe, where host Brent Heffron talks to Brick Cave Media authors and artists about the stories of the day, about what's driving them to write, what's driving them to record. And you can also catch Brent Heffron's Pop Culture Smackdowns, which are enjoyable. So remember, the Beatdown Report at YouTube is our show, our channel for the show, and brickcavemedia.com, which is our parent company. So let's go back to the show. So there's a PhD candidate. He's from the University of Miami. His name is David Schiffman. And he has a great Twitter. If you're not following it, it's at WhySharksMatter on Twitter. And he talks about his experiences both in marine science, the nuts and bolts in the field stuff, but he also talks about how he looks at sharks and shark in the media, shark news in the media. And he often gives talks to schools, and he always has to deal with Discovery Channel's bullshit. He says, matter-of-factly, that he always gets a question, is Megalodon still swimming the seas of the world? And he always has to answer, no, Megalodon is extinct. And I imagine that gets really frustrating as a scientist. But there's been a change in Shark Week, hopefully. We don't know yet, but Shark Week is coming a week early this year. Apparently, the cycles of the moon have decreed that Shark Week, like Ramadan, like Rosh Hashanah, like Easter, all the religious holidays that go by the cycle of the moon and the stars, Shark Week also goes by the cycle of the moon and the stars, and it is now going to be starting July 5th through July 12th. And there's a new president at Discovery. I believe his name is Rick. Is it Rick Ross? Rich Ross. Rick Ross is the producer. Rich Ross is the newly installed president of Discovery Channel, Discovery Communications. And he has promised that the horseshit of fake documentaries, which Discovery Channel doubled down on in 2014. They presented Megalodon, the new evidence, which is all fabricated evidence. And I like giant killer shark fiction. There's terrible movies like the Shark Attack series, produced by Low Budget Enterprises Incorporated. There's the Meg series by Steve Alton, which is so ridiculous. Seriously, if you want to turn your brain off and read sub young adult fiction, he's gotten better. He's gotten to be a better author over the years. So I've read each and every one of the books because I'm a masochist. But I love giant killer shark fiction. In the first book of the Meg series, the Megalodon shark destroys the USS Nautilus nuke sub. It is crazy. But so they're going to be doing new documentaries on the Discovery Channel on Shark Week. I'm actually very excited about some of them. One of them is going to have an expedition to Cuba. And Cuba, there was actually, and I want to give a shout out to National Geographic. National Geographic. Oh, here we're doing an actual shout out to National Geographic here. This is the kind of music that if you were a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, when you heard this, you knew you were in for some awesome nature programming. Because the National Geographic Society didn't fuck around back then. They showed you nature red in tooth and claw, and they showed you Thompson's gazelles getting torn apart by alligators, and the Thompson's gazelle was like the red shirt of the African savanna, where everything ate it, everything killed it. But National Geographic has their counter-programming. They call it Shark Fest. And National Geographic, their shows, I think, are better for science than anything that Discovery Channel has put out. And they had this fascinating documentary where there were shark attacks happening off the coast of Recife, Brazil, where they had these population of bull sharks and tigers, and they were being, again, statistically getting attacked by a shark is very, very small. In Recife, they had a spate of shark attacks, which they were trying to figure out why. And it basically boiled down to, well, we destroyed the natural environment and sharks are moving closer inshore to try to get food. And the interactions with humans are becoming more common. So, you know, statistically, you're going to have more shark attacks, even though statistically it's really super small. But they went to similar populations of sharks off the coast of Cuba, and they did not have these similar levels of shark attacks. And the reason why was that the Cuban government recognized the importance of keeping the natural environment. And again, I'm not saying that Cuba is some sort of paradise for animals, but if you look at, say, the populations of American saltwater crocodiles in the Everglades and the Florida Keys, when compared to the populations of American saltwater crocodiles off the coast of Cuba, you're going to find more off the coast of Cuba, because Fidel Castro, even though he's a gigantic bastard who has murdered thousands of people in the name of pursuing his ideology, he's got a soft spot for marine ecology, which is kind of like saying Hitler loved his dog. But the point stands is that Cuba has some areas that have kind of not been exploited yet. And Discovery Channel is going there to film sharks, which I'm very excited to see. And they are also focusing on a kid by the name of Sean Lesniak, who helped pass a law that a 9-year-old kid managed to convince the Massachusetts state. He didn't do it all himself, obviously. That would be cool. That would be very Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But he helped promote a law that has led to Massachusetts banning shark finning. And it's not 100%. They still allow certain species to be caught, which will more than likely present problems down the road. I believe the dogfish, there are 2 species of dogfish that are allowed to be fished and finned still. But for the most part, larger pelagic sharks, like great whites, makos, I don't think they have porbeagles off the coast of Massachusetts, but sharks in the Lamidae family and mackerel sharks and other schooling sharks, probably, I believe they have spinners and black tips and all that. They're protected under Massachusetts law in Massachusetts waters, which is really freaking cool. So they're going to be focusing on this kid and doing a special on him, which I think is awesome. And I think it represents a larger view. We talked earlier in the show about Mark the Shark and how people would, you know, say, oh, he's Captain Ahab or he's Quint from Jaws and all this other horse shit. Now we're doing documentaries about people who are trying to save sharks. Even people who suffered against, you know, who drew snake eyes in the statistical game of whether or not you're going to get attacked by a shark. Paul Van de Gelder, the Australian Navy diver who got his arm and leg torn off by a bull shark. He's a huge proponent of shark conservation now. And he participates in some of the sensationalist stuff on Discovery Channel. But again, I think for the most part, people see sharks now not as a necessary evil, but as necessary and good and exciting and worthwhile. And you see that in kind of people's shopping habits. One of the largest growth industries right now in the United States is, well, I wouldn't say growth industry, but I would say one of an upcoming industry, an upcoming business venture is sustainable fishing. And I mentioned drift boat fishing, and I don't necessarily know if that's sustainable or not, because again, it's very indiscriminate about what you catch. But off the coast of San Diego, there is a company called American Tuna. And they have tuna boats that go out and they practice pole and troll fishing, which is a very limited fishery, which goes after young tuna with a line and a pole. And there's really cool videos you can go online and watch, search on American Tuna pole and troll fishing. But they basically only catch what they are trying to catch, which is young, I believe it's yellowfin tuna, maybe Dorado, I don't know. But it's very good tuna. If you never had it, I actually recommend it. And the canneries are in the United States, and it's bringing money to the United States fishing industry, and it's providing jobs, and it's governed under California state law, and it's in California waters, which all of this, it's not long lining. It's not using fads, which are just basically decimating areas of the Pacific and Indian Oceans and Southern Atlantic. areas of North Atlantic, unfortunately, have been fished out and are recovering. But we do these things. We support companies like American Tuna, and we go for the labels of sustainability, even if that may not be 100% sustainable, but that's another show. But we do that because we care about the marine environment. And this doesn't just extend to Americans. There was a very interesting article. This is from the South China Morning Post. And if you go to theclute.com, I have some commentary on it where I say China temporarily declares ceasefire with sharks. Where there was a military exercise where China was putting out balloons for their gunners to test their marksmanship. And then they call it a bullhead shark, and this looks from the picture, it looks to be an oceanic white-tip shark, which is a very threatened species right now by shark finning and longlining. But they put out these balloons, and the shark came up to investigate it. Oceanic white-tips are very opportunistic hunters. Because they live in these great expanses of the ocean, and if they find food or something that might be food, they're going to investigate it because this may be their only meal for a while. So this oceanic white-tip shark, this bullhead shark, swims up to the balloons that have been laid out for the gunners, and it starts to investigate it. And what happens? Now, I would wager in the old days that the gunners would have targeted the shark. Because sharks were evil, sharks were trash, we didn't care about them. And they probably, rather than use the balloon for the target, they would have used the shark. And this is a little bit of propaganda, I think, from the Chinese Navy, from the PLA. But here's what they said. The bullheaded shark appeared through the gunner Tong Yang's viewing scope as he was about to pull the trigger. It appeared to have been attracted by the colorful balloons and was playing around them. Tong's superior ordered them to hold fire, the report said. Now, there's some more information about again, check out the article. It's on theclute.com. But what was really interesting was, one, that they publicized that they did not kill the shark, that they stopped a military exercise. And in a military dictatorship, that's a big thing. That's basically saying, hey, we're not going to continue this because a fluffy bunny wandered onto the artillery range. What was interesting was the adjectives that they used to describe the shark and the behavior, the words that they used to describe the behavior of the shark. The shark wasn't stalking or hunting or plying through the waters. The words that they choose in the article were, the shark appeared to be having fun, and the shark was playing with the colorful balloons. It is very easy to kill a demon. Well, I don't know about it's easy to kill a demon, but it's easy to get people to want to kill a demon. You use bad language. It is much more difficult to say, go kill that cute animal. And that's what, again, subtle language choices. I'm not saying China is some sort of champion of the environment. You only have to take a lungful of Beijing air or, try to find a Baiji, which is, in the Yangtze River. China is not some sort of benevolent, happy group of peace-loving, animal-loving governmental officials. But they are subtly doing things which I think are helping. And it's more than that. There's a group called Wild Aid. They're an environmental charity that has been really focusing on Southern Asia and their love of shark products. And they're really trying to get people to stop wanting the products. If the demand is down, the supply will ultimately go with it. And you're not going to be able to pass laws by public fiat in countries that don't have a democratic process that would protect sharks or protect other animals. So what they're doing is they're trying to make it so they're trying to poison the well when it comes to wanting shark products. And the Chinese government has done that as well. About a couple years ago, they officially took shark fin soup off the menu of governmental functions. And that's a big signal to people saying, we're not eating sharks anymore. Maybe you should stop too. Again, China could tomorrow could confiscate every shark finning boat, they could pass laws saying we're not going to accept long line fish in our markets that come from long lines. They're not going to do that because, like every other government, like every other business, they're concerned about the bottom line. But they are showing a certain amount of awareness, which was not there before. And groups like Wild Aid, which are going to taking their message directly to the people. In some ways, they've used celebrities in China. Yao Min, for instance, the basketball player, who has a very big cachet in Chinese society, Chinese popular culture. He's been going on anti-shark finning promotions and such, and things are happening. In August 5th, a report from Wild Aid off their website. Prices and sales of shark fin are falling in China by 70 to 50%, according to a new report released today by Wild Aid. If the prices go down, if the supply goes down, if it's not worth bringing shark fins to market, they won't bring it. They'll go on to something else. The report that Wild Aid released says that there's been an 82% decline in sales reported by shark fin vendors in Guangzhou, China, and a decrease in prices, 47% retail and 50% wholesale, 57% wholesale over the past 2 years. 85% of Chinese consumers surveyed online said they gave up shark fin soup within the past 3 years. 2/3 of these respondents cited awareness campaigns. 28% cited the government banquet ban as a reason. That's really cool. That's direct action producing results. We still have a problem. Sharks are being depleted out of the oceans. We are not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. We could see the extinction of certain shark species in the next 10 years. The scalloped hammerhead really needs a lot of protection. But the wheel is turning. The rust is coming off the gears. And it's not just in China. And again, don't write me angry letters saying that I think that China is great. I don't think China is great in its fishing practices. I think there's so much more work there needs to be done, but stuff is happening where it wasn't happening before. But in the United States, it's happening even more. There are states that ban shark finning. California, Massachusetts, I believe Washington State does as well. There have been federal actions which almost undermined state action, unfortunately, but actually they've got it sorted out. So the state fishing practices, I believe, take precedence over the federal. But in the federal government in 2009, the Shark Conservation Act was passed, which prevented finning in United States territorial waters. If you catch a shark, you have to bring it on shore before it can be processed, or you have to process the whole thing. You have to document that, which can then be enforced by the Coast Guard, which if you don't do it, you could lose your fishing license. There's all kinds of ramifications right now which prevent negative fishing practices. And our public perception of sharks has changed. Off the coast of Massachusetts, at Cape Cod, in a town called, it's not off the coast of Massachusetts, it's on the coast of Massachusetts. Cape Cod is just a peninsula, not an island. Don't send me your pedantic letters. There's a town called Chatham, which is visited every summer now by great whites. And you'd think in the old days, it'd be like Amity Island. You know, Mayor Quimby, not Mayor Quimby, what was his name? Mayor Vaughn. Mayor Vaughn would, demand that the shark be killed and all this other stuff. Now, town of Chatham is celebrating great whites. They're building a museum. They're selling merchandise. Great whites are now as important to Chatham as witchcraft is to Salem, as voodoo is to New Orleans, as crazy new age bullshit is to Sedona, Arizona. And that's a definite sea change, no pun intended, about how we view sharks. They're a commodity, which, maybe you don't want to see the natural world as a commodity, but I'd rather protect sharks as a commodity for tourism than I would to protect them as a source for food. And that's one thing that you can do. If you really love the marine environment, you really need to reassess what you're eating. If you absolutely can't give up seafood, and I find myself having difficulties giving it up, investigate what you're eating. The price of American tuna, it's going to be a little more than your shitty can of Starkist or Bumblebee. Not going to lie to you. Supporting a sustainable business will probably take a little more out of your pocketbook than you might like. But it's worth it. Go vegetarian, go vegan. That's if you as an individual want to help the world, help the environment, that's kind of the most impactful thing that you can do. But if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to eat seafood, make sure it's sustainable. Make sure you research the fishing practices. Make sure the farming practices, the ranching practices. Make sure the corporations, the companies that you support, do things that are going to be as unobtrusive as humanly possible. But the rewards will be there. You'll get a better feeling when you open that can of tuna, and it tastes better. It's better for you. Like I said, I can't sing American tuna's praises enough. And that's your free ad, American tuna. But well, and we'll have a link to them on the page just because I do want to support businesses I think that are doing good. And maybe I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, comment on the YouTube page. Hit me up on Twitter. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. We always will correct the record. We'll have you on the show. Well, maybe we won't have random YouTube troll commentator on the show, but we'll have, if you have a reasonable point of view, we'll definitely get you on here. But I guess the point of today's show has been we are moving towards progress, whether it's how we view sharks in the media, whether how we're trying to go for real science and real public advocacy with what Rich Ross is proposing for Shark Week, how we're kind of looking down upon people like Mark the Shark, and how governments from the United States, democracy, happy, shiny people, to the repressive government of China and its shiny, happy people, how we're all looking toward the marine environment as something maybe to be exploited less because our destinies lie in the ocean. If the ocean dies, if ocean acidification takes out plankton, if we have no more fish to feed people, not only will we lose something beautiful, but we will also lose ourselves. Remember, Soylent Green, the movie Soylent Green, the whole process of starvation happens when the oceans die. And do you really want to be Charlton Heston running through the streets screaming Soylent Green is people? No, you do not. And that is today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you, if you liked it, you'll comment. Give us a like on Facebook or like on YouTube. Please put your comments in on the YouTube Facebook page or YouTube comments page. Damn it. We'll respond. Hit me up on Twitter. Enjoy your week. Because in reality, this is all you have. Maybe there's an afterlife, maybe there's something else, but you're here now. Enjoy it. Live well. Live in harmony. Man, do we just shift to like a Sedona? Are we now in Sedona? Did the studios just fall into a vortex? Anyway, that was the Beatdown Report for February 18th, 2015. My name, your host, is The Clute. I want to thank our executive producer, Bob Nelson of Brick Cave Media. I want to thank our in-studio producer, sound guy extraordinaire, Johnny Skinner. I want to thank our PR person who's not in the studio today, but she always does a bang-up job. Her name is Jen LeBuzz. I want to thank YouTube for providing free hosting and let us monetize our content so we can hopefully bring you more awesomeness from the Beatdown Report. The music you're hearing in the background is Raymond Scott's Powerhouse. And that is it. Don't forget to check out our channel on YouTube, the Beatdown Report. You can also check out my blog where we'll have articles and fun stuff, theclute.com. And we will see you in a scant week. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Adios.